currently an analyst at Ko Awatea at Middlemore, although I am on a 12-month maternity leave with my 3-month daughter. So that's been a bit of a career change, to say the least. Yeah, I've had a pretty zigzag career, I think. There's been no real direction, I think, especially, being a millennial and coming out of university right in that recession in 08. Yeah, so I sort of found myself zigzagging around different careers, different jobs, kind of going on my gut feel. And yeah, sorry, that sounded really terrible.
No, we'll get into that. I guess when you went through those zigzags, what drove you to the next thing? Did you have a sense of purpose? So I think we can go into that question that we wanted to go into. What was your purpose, or what was something that drove you to the next thing?
In all honesty, and this is me being completely frank with you, was travel. I would get jobs that I could do and just earn money and save and travel. And it would kind of be like 6 a year stints in one job to save enough money to go travel for 6 months, 3 months, a year, or whatever. And my job just kind of fueled my passion for travel rather than a career for myself. So I kind of just fell into jobs, if that makes sense. Like, I never really thought seriously about what I was doing in a career. It was more like, what can I do that will pay me enough money that I can save and go on the next big trip?
Travel and preparing for the next one, and then finding the next gig and continuing that cycle. What do you think attracted you towards that particular way of living?
I think the freedom of just being able to, pack up and go and do whatever, whenever. This is pre-marriage, pre-babies, pre-mortgage, of course. My life is very different now. Pre-pandemic as well, things have changed dramatically. But I think what I really liked is it kind of comes back down to my project management skill set as well. It was always kind of project managing the next thing for me. And one of the things I love about traveling, and it's super nerdy, is that it is like the ultimate project management task, right? So you've got to plan everything. You're like, you're your own stakeholder, you're your own sponsor, you're your own client, contract, all those things, coordinator, everything that kind of embodies project management as a job. That's kind of what travel is for me. So, I have Trello boards for all my trips and everything I do, what I need to buy before I go, insurance, itineraries, tickets, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it is the ultimate form of project management.
I've never thought about that, but it sounds like it was a project or a program of work that you really enjoyed, and there was like a pure joy that you got out of it by being able to structure it for yourself, being the stakeholder.
Yeah, so it's the ultimate form of hedonism, right? Like, it was purely self-indulgent. And, ultimately, I know we need to work as people, but having that freedom to be anywhere, do anything, any day is the ultimate freedom. And it was so incredible and so enjoyable. But in saying that, we did a year-long trip around the world, and it was at the end of that, I was ready to get back into a routine, ready to go back into the workforce and to start working again, and to, have that kind of consistency rather than that pure hedonistic travel.
So you talked about a lot of things. It seemed like it was quite timely, pre this. Now that it's all post-COVID, now it's post, I don't know, have kids. I have a kid, and post a lot of different things. Do you still have the same drive? And if not, what's driving you at the moment?
Well, I think, like, just backtracking a little bit, what drove me in my career kind of this whole time has been this common theme or purpose about helping people and kind of being community driven, having that community mindset. And going back even further, I went to a school whose motto was "Serviamus," which means to serve. And it's only kind of recently that I've really aligned my kind of career purpose with kind of that to serve, like to serve communities, to serve people, to get better health gains or whatever. So what drives me now is still that kind of to go to work and to know that you are effectively making a difference. And, I got into healthcare probably about 10 years ago after working several different jobs in kind of art galleries, gyms, all sorts of things, and in the education sector. And I really did want to make a difference and to have a job where I knew that there was actually positive outcomes rather than sort of working for a FCMG where it's kind of all about money in, money out, that kind of thing. So yeah, I started working in healthcare, and then that was basically my career for so long until 2019. I kind of got really sick of it because I felt that there was a real lack of innovation, a real lack of tech, a real lack of change. People kind of talk about, we should do this, we should do that, and there was projects being done for all this, but there was no real effective change that was being made. Still kind of feel like that now, but yeah. So I went and did a master's in technological futures to kind of help me kind of upskill a bit, to get a better understanding, to look at emerging disruptive technology and how we can actually use that to create change in terms of kind of human-centered approach. And then the pandemic happened and I thought I was never going to go back to healthcare, but I kind of got sucked back in because, it was needed. There were all these jobs that were going for project management kind of roles. So I went back and that's where I am, kind of how I landed where I am today back at Middlemore. And that's all kind of been driven by this innate desire to kind of make the world a better place, I guess. And I guess to answer your question, that's sort of what's driven me throughout these kind of career hops and zigzags. Did that answer your question?
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. I think you did start off saying zigzag, but it's also a really good illustration. Sometimes things don't make sense in the moment, but when you look back at it, it's like, oh, it makes sense now.
Yeah.
And it's really good to hear that from you, because a lot of people, because the audience that I was trying to pitch this whole podcast thing to is between 18 and 25, where a lot of the searching happens. Yeah. And I think a lot of the people in that age, like thinking when we were 18 or less than 25, we probably didn't know exactly what we were up to. Like it could have been Pipi looking for the next travel. It might have been Sunjay looking for, I don't know, the next vacation within New Zealand or going back to South Korea for a winter trip. Yeah. But when you look back at it, there's a bit more to it. And I really like that came out of your story really well.
And to be fair, like, I don't feel like as humans we ever have that answer, right? Like we're never completely content with what we're doing. We're always looking for the next thing. And I'm a firm believer that, it comes back to this cheesy Beatles quote, but there's nowhere you can be that isn't where you're meant to be. And I firmly believe that, like what you're doing now is to help you for the next part, but you're only here because of all the things you've done before. And, I talk a lot about travel and sort of my story, and that has really, I think, helped my career because it's given me such a worldly point of view. It helps me associate and to relate to other cultures and people and understand kind of the idiosyncrasies of different cultures around the world. And healthcare is about that, right? Like this melting pot of different cultures, particularly at Middlemore. So, when people kind of scoff at, oh, you didn't work, you traveled. It's like, well, actually, it gave me a lot of life skills, which I'm forever grateful for. And it's the same with being a mum now. Like it's, people scoff at taking a year off for maternity leave. But again, I'm coming back to that project management. I'm project managing my entire household right now, including my beautiful daughter and my household and all the things that go on with that.
Oh, there's a lot of harmony in what you describe as project management, which I really like, because I think the essence of project management isn't just, do waterfall, do this, deliver it. It's more like, how do you bring peace and structure to chaos? And I think your stories make perfect sense in that kind of worldview. You're traveling, your itinerary, that's a chaotic, I want to travel this, I want to eat this, I want to go here. How do I make it happen so that I can actually live through it and enjoyably and worthwhile all the penny and all the money and time you spend? And then your home, your jobs and healthcare and all the other gigs that you've done. It shows that your drive to improve health outcomes of our community and having that transferable skill of a project management was a really hand in hand to make your zigzag career a bit more worthwhile.
Yeah.
I guess some things we sometimes forget is it's quite hard to start your journey when you're not a project manager yet, or you don't have the skills yet. So I think it'll be a good place for us to dwell on a little bit. If someone is like, oh, that's me, or I want to be like Pipi, or I want to travel a lot more, or I want to do project management or analyst roles, like how do you get started when you don't have that experience?
I think that's a really good question. And I also just want to preface this with, I don't have any formal training in terms of project management. Like I have done courses here and there, but I don't have any kind of Prince 2 or anything qualifications. And the irony of that is I actually teach project management in my usual role, which I also love. But I've also have a lot of experience. So my first role in project management, well, I started kind of in project coordinator roles and kind of got that experience of just looking at how projects work and kind of the nuances of all the pieces moving, you know. And one of our colleagues at Minimal says, you know, project management is literally juggling all the things at the same time, right? So that was a really good foresight into that. And then I was just lucky enough to have a manager at one point that just said, I've got this project. It was about, it was in a PHO, and it was looking at implementing a new kind of information system throughout all the practices. And they just took a punt on me and just said, I believe in you. I think you can do this. And she gave me that role for a year and I nailed it. A lot of lessons on the way. And I think that's one of the most important things about project management is that nothing's ever going to go smoothly. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. But as long as you're taking on board the lessons that you've learned along the way throughout your career and the projects, then, you know, you're only going to be better off. But yeah, to get back into your original question about actually how does one person get in, I think there's a lot of really great courses online, you know, like all those free courses, Coursera, Udemy, like those kind of things, even YouTube. There's a whole wealth of knowledge out there online to just pick up bits, even just to look at, you know, what is the process of project management? Like, where do you start and where do you end? And what does that look like? Every organization will have a different way of how that looks. But I think just to get your head around, you know, how does a project start and how does it finish and what's in between is a really good way just to kind of get that lingo as well for any kind of newbie. Start thinking about how do you approach a project. And then I guess like start looking at how that applies to your everyday life. You know, like I've said about travel, it's how does that relate to things you're doing, and you can kind of unpick your tasks and your projects in your everyday life and be like, oh yeah, I can see how that's a project. I see how that followed that sort of system of A to B. Yeah, so that was really cool.
So I guess the advice would be, if you don't have project management experience, look up free courses online, pick up the lingo, and try to implement something that's currently within your context, whether it's your life, whether it's traveling, or whether it's your current role. Is there something, a small problem that you can solve? And can you use the lingos that you've learned for free and present that back to your manager? And maybe, even though people like yourself goes, I was lucky because someone trusted me, but the trust is not built on just luck or opportunity. Like it just doesn't happen without any effort. So they probably saw a potential within you, and you can be a bit more deliberate with making it easier for people to see a potential within you.
Yeah, definitely. I think I kind of classify myself as a problem solver. Like that's kind of what I love to do as well, you know. And I think kind of having that mindset of looking at a problem, just looking at being bold or brave enough to kind of think of solutions and to talk to someone about implementing them. I think that's kind of the real start of project management, right? Because projects are ultimately solving a problem. So through my career, I think I've just been recognized as being one of those people that can tackle a problem and try and solve it. And I think that's why I got kind of shoulder tapped to do this project management role initially. And again, it's just kind of like people are always looking for project managers, no matter how big the project is. So if there are people out there wanting to get started, you know, like talk around, see if there are opportunities out there for just managing tiny projects, even if you're the only person in that team to solve that problem or that project. It's a really good start. It gives you that skill set. It gives you that opportunity to develop. And ultimately, it will never be a waste of time because project management skills are so transferable across all industry, all jobs. Yeah.
Awesome. I think that's a really good place for us to transition into what I'm most looking forward to. My thoughts are there is someone who is that 20-year-old hippie out there. I wanted to hear that. So
God help her.